That's it. Good evening. Hi, this is Richard Doré. I'm here at the Harbor Church with Let's Talk Live. And our guest tonight is Sandi with an I, Akers. And Sandi had been a longtime member of the church, and she and her husband Dick are very good friends, Judy's and I. And we just had a real nice time, and she'll be discussing some of the things that we've done together and throughout the years. But uh, she kind of had an interesting experience when you always think, God works in mysterious ways, and sometimes we don't always recognize what He's doing or how He wants the thing. But back in the 70s, Sandi lived in Torrance, and one of her longtime neighbors had moved, and a new person moved in across the street, Ellen, and they became friends, and they just had, and at the time, Sandi was a practicing Lutheran, and speaking of practicing Lutherans, did you follow Ash Wednesday in your church?
Um, what you mean get the...
Well, the Lutheran, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because today's Ash Wednesday.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
And I remember when I was a Catholic kid, we did the Lent, and I remember I always had to give up something for Lent, and I always gave up lima beans. I figure as a
And
kid,
probably.
easy to give up lima beans. Anyway,
Well, that's funny.
Sandi just had an interesting experience with her new neighbor, Ellen, and I'd like her to talk about it.
Okay. Well, and when she moved across the street, we had a lot in common. We had my son, Mark, my middle son, was going into kindergarten, and her daughter Becky was going into kindergarten too. So when we went to a meeting, a gal came up to me and said, "Oh, Sandi, you need to meet your new neighbor." And so sometimes you click with
Oh,
someone,
sure.
and she was a really good friend. We, talked a lot and everything. And I had a bookshelf
Yes.
as you came in the door, and she looked and saw that book, and she said, "Oh, I'd really like to read that." And I said, "Well, take it home." She said, "I don't know if my husband would approve. He would say she's of the devil." And I said, "Oh, I never heard anybody talk like that." And so anyway, she took the book home. She came back and brought it back, and I said, "Well, what do you think?" And she said, "Yeah, I think she is." And I said, "Well, how can you say that?" She said, "She's a Catholic. She goes every day to Mass." I said, "What? What? No." She said, she has a crystal ball, and she looked into the eyes of a snake, and no.
Must be
I
quite a
know.
book.
Yeah. So I said, "Okay." So that was a running conversation with us. But, one time she came over and she said, "Sandi, have you ever asked Jesus into your heart?" And I thought, well, no, I hadn't done that. And I thought, you know, I had really, I had a wonderful husband. I had two darling kids, sons, and we had a place up in the mountains. I had a lot. And I thought, but there was something missing in my life. And I thought, well, maybe that could be it. Anyway, when I don't know how old I was, a little girl, and I remember in church this one pastor that we had, people thought he was kind of, I want to say brimstone.
Okay.
Anyway, I do remember him saying, "You must be born again."
Ah,
And I
okay.
had never really heard that. And I thought, oh, well, that would be kind of sad. It made me sad to think that, we didn't all would be there to go to heaven.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, when she said that, I said, "Well, yeah, I guess so." And so she said, "Well, I'm going to go get my Bible." And I thought, well, I have a Bible, but of course I didn't know where it was. So anyway, she got her Bible and came back, and she read scriptures to me and everything. And then she said, "Well, now, Sandi, you pray." And I thought, oh my goodness. When I was in middle school, my dad was superintendent of the Sunday school.
Yeah.
And he said one day, "We're going to have sentence prayer." And so we went around. And so on the way home, I said, "Daddy, don't do that. Don't ask that again." That's so embarrassing. So spiritual. Anyway, he never did.
Okay.
So, yes, when Ellen said that, and I prayed my prayer, my life changed
Oh, good.
so much. And it's not just knowing, it's having it in your heart.
Yeah.
And I hadn't had that, you know. So,
Well, that
mhm.
probably uh, there. I'm sure there's a lot of Christians. Same way you know of God, but do you know God?
That's right. Even the demons
Yeah,
know him.
yeah. Everybody knows of Him, but
Yes.
yeah, and
Mhm.
so that's good.
Mhm. So anyway, she came from, like, I think it was Georgia, and she
Okay.
was constantly going to the library checking on the earthquakes and what
Yeah.
happened, and she was so concerned. And I thought, well, what about the hurricanes? What about all those things that are going on back? So anyway, she said, I don't know why we're here, but and one day it was like the Lord said, I know why she's here.
Yes. Well,
She's
it.
come to tell me about you,
I think you're
Jesus.
right. That's why I'm
Mhm.
saying, you don't,
Mhm.
you never know what God puts before us, but obviously He has a plan.
That's right. That's right.
And luckily, we're just luckily that we can take advantage of His
Mhm.
plans. That
Mhm.
works out pretty well.
So she did come back to me,
Good,
and she said, "Sandy, I know why we're here,
good,
because I discussed it with my husband, and we both said we're here because of Sandy."
excellent.
And that, I never knew that God loved me that much. I thought I was just, kind of, I don't know if I want to say
Well,
nobody, but
no, that's okay. Well, been
but
getting that feeling that
mhm.
you knowing that God loves you.
Mhm.
I think one of your next events is of a person that if really want to know about God's love, this is the person. You went to a luncheon in which Bobby Romas
Mhm.
was the speaker.
Mhm.
For you out in the audience who don't know, Bobby lives locally, and she attends. She and her husband Les attend church here, and her daughter Leanne used to be principal of the Harbor School Church. Excuse me, the Harbor Church Schools. And Bobby started an organization called Anagape. Basically, it's known more as American Christian Trust. And she is just one of the most intense Christian, I mean, God people that you could ever meet. Excuse me. And so you had an opportunity to go to a luncheon where she was speaking, and so
Mhm.
sounds like that luncheon altered your life too.
Well, I had been trying to minister to my sister-in-law, Jan, and when I heard Bobby, I went up to her and I said, "Oh, well, thank you. Oh, I loved what you said. It was wonderful." And she said, "Well, praise God." I'm so happy, but praise God. So when I went home to tell my neighbor, Ellen, I said, she's just what we want. She's just like we always talk about, that she doesn't take any of the glory to herself, but she gives it to God. So anyway, I talked to my sister-in-law, Jan, and I said, Jan, I try to tell you how I feel and what's happened in my life. You don't really, I didn't say you don't get it,
Yeah.
but she didn't. And so I said, if this lady comes back again, will you come and hear her? And she said, yes. But she said in her heart, she said no.
Okay.
So she did come. Bobby, of course, did come back again. And my sister in law came and she said, we talked about it later. She said, I felt like she was talking just to me.
Correct.
And so we went home after the luncheon, and I started talking to her and saying, "Oh, isn't this wonderful? And how'd you like this?" and everything. And she kind of got mad, and she left. And I said, "Okay, Lord, that's it. Not going to say another word to her." And I think he said, "Good." Anyway, she went home, and she called Bobby, and she said, "Are you doing a Bible study?" And Bobby said, "No, not right now." But she said, "I will come over to your house." So Bobby came over to Jan and Fred's house, and she would read her the Bible and talk to her, and then they would go to church together, and they would go out to lunch afterwards. So this went on, and finally she said, "Jan, you're either going to walk around the corner or you're going to accept
Yeah.
Jesus. And of course, Jan did accept.
Sure.
And then they, with my brother, formed an agape.
Oh, they helped. Jan helped
Yes,
form Anagapi with
yes,
Bobby. Okay,
yes.
good.
So there, yeah, they were the three that were together. Now I want to tell you, Bobby's Bible studies were awesome.
Oh, I can imagine.
I mean, there were so many people that came. It was at a house, at Judy McFarland's house, and Bobby went into depth in the Bible, and God would show her things,
Yeah.
and she would tell us, and we would, our eyes were open, and we loved it. She taught us how to love Israel,
Yes.
and
Oh, very much so.
and she taught us about the Holy Spirit and how wonderful he was, and they would talk about prayer language,
Yes.
and yeah, yeah, it was just it grew. It was more people came, so they had to get it out of the house, and then they moved several times. They had it one time up at Mary and Joseph's retreat house up on top of the
Yeah.
hill, and yeah, it was amazing, just amazing.
Well, I know one thing Bobby had was an intense love of Israel.
Yes.
And along with American Christian Trust, that love, I mean, she knew all the leaders of Israel. I mean, she wasn't just going to, I mean, she knew Israel. And because of that, though, she would have a lot of prayer missions
hmm
that went to Israel. And I understand you went on some of the early prayer missions to Israel.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were wonderful. In fact, I think I was on the second one, and I had just had a baby. And
Well,
Matthew,
this is Matthew, right?
uh-huh,
Okay.
and
That's your third son.
my
Okay.
third
Yeah.
son,
Okay.
and my mother always said, "Oh, Sandy, you're such a good sport. When any of us go to any trips or anything, we bring back our slides, and you just love, and you're so sweet. Watching them." She said, "Oh, your daddy and I want to give you a trip
Oh, that's nice.
with Bobby." And so I thought, well, I guess it's three that baby. So anyway, I did go on. I just felt like the Lord was
Yes.
calling me to go. And so Dick took the two older boys, and my mom took the baby. And that was eye-opening trip. I had
Yes.
never really been any place, and so
Yeah.
yes, it was very exciting and lots of good things. We went to, I think, France first,
Okay.
Paris, hmm but we obviously ended up in Israel,
Okay.
which was
You
wonderful.
said you ended up in Rome?
Israel. We
Oh, no,
did
you
go to
ended
Rome.
up in Rome. Okay. Or you went on the way. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
went on the way. Yes.
On the way. Okay.
hmm
Yeah, because I know in the trips, some of the trips we have been gone to other countries, and that's one thing.
Right.
Like the first trip that Judy and I took with Bobby to Israel. I always heard, somebody says, "Oh, before you go there, the Bible's in black and white." And you go to Israel and you come back and the Bible is in color. And I can definitely think, just going on these mission trips with
hmm
Bobby too, the idea of walking where Jesus walked
hmm
and standing where he preached and being where he gave his life for my sins,
hmm
it's you don't have the words to express what that means, and I understand, and that's what I liked about these American Christian trips, the American Christian Trust mission trips,
hmm
is you had such a wonderful experience and really got to know what Jesus did
That's right.
for the Jews there.
hmm
That was very impressive.
It was. My favorite place was the Garden Tomb.
Yes.
It's so peaceful, so wonderful. And also, I loved being on the
Oh, Mount of Olives.
Mount of
Oh, yes.
Olives. Yes.
Well, I think Bobby and Les, I think they're the ones who built the staircase leading up.
Uh-huh. My
So,
brother did that
oh,
too.
your brother was that? Okay, very good. A good connection.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've been on those stairs.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It's for me. It's a place that whenever I go to Israel, it's like coming home. It's just so wonderful. It
Yeah,
is so
yeah.
peaceful. It's, yeah, I love it.
Well, you took multiple trips to Israel
I
with
did.
American Christian Trust.
Hmm.
What are some of the other trips? Like I know one that we went on together, went to Turkey,
Hmm.
and we get to the seven churches in Revelations, and we went to Patmos to
Oh,
John's,
wasn't that good?
cave,
Oh,
where
yeah.
John wrote Revelation.
Right.
That was
That was, hmm,
impressive,
it
impressive.
was.
But yeah, those just has to have an amazing thing when you're there and you can walk the same area. That has to
Hmm.
have an effect
Hmm.
on you,
Yeah. Yeah.
on your walk with God.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I can't imagine
Yeah,
not being able to go to those trips. It's
yeah,
been, yeah, mind changing.
yeah.
Hmm.
And I think at the time, like when you went on that first trip, though, Dick, your husband Dick, wasn't quite a believer,
No, he
right?
wasn't too thrilled. I was leaving.
Yeah, yeah. But you used to do a little trick where you would take the kids to church, and you would turn on the TV and turn it to Oral Roberts,
Hmm.
and leave it on so Dick could hear things,
That's
right?
right.
How did this come about? He eventually became a believer.
Yes, he did, and he accepted the Lord with Oral Roberts.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because that connection, we went back there, and my boys were on the basketball team,
Yes.
and he became the head
Yeah,
coach.
and he became head
Hmm.
coach. Yes.
Hmm.
Uh-huh. Well, speaking of, since you've been involved with American Christian Trust too, they have a place in Washington D.C. that, truthfully, if any of you out there are interested, you can contact Lisa Cornett at the church office, and she can put you in touch with Mark Pritchett. Mark is back living at the American Christian Trust House of Prayer right now. And if you'd really like to get some more information about the trust and Agape, or about visiting Washington and staying at the House of Prayer, Lisa will get you his phone number. You can give Mark a call, and I think you would really enjoy the experience. It's a very worthwhile way to do Washington, D.C. You're going to find that Washington's more than just a bunch of monuments when you stay at the House of Prayer.
Hmm.
And particularly, what memories do you have of the House of Prayer?
Well, I think we've had a lot of wonderful times in the prayer room,
Yeah,
and it's not just pray, 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 pray the whole 3 hours.
yeah,
We read the Bible, we read the scriptures, and they have a book that opens, and you can, what they want you to pray for, and yeah, and we sing songs.
yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, plus you were starting, and well, obviously your family helped it out too, but and you're still doing it. You collect the checks that come in and
Yeah,
bank the checks, so they're still sent up to the PV post office. Okay, the mail. Okay, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, well that's good. That's
yeah.
good. Okay, what else? Give me some ideas. Exactly what else has all this interaction with Bobby done to your walk with Christ? Just how has it inflamed your love for the Lord?
Well, it deepens
Okay.
your walk, and yeah, it's she always is pushing,
Oh,
pushing, pushing. I call her the energized bunny.
oh, most definitely. Very intense.
Yes, yes. Anyway, yeah. Um, well, we've had a lot of dinners and agape dinners where they have people come in and speak,
Yes.
real good speakers,
Yes.
and it's nice to share a meal with your friends. And I'm honestly, most of my friends are from Anagapi, although a lot of them have passed away. And yeah, but now I have new good friends.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I know that uh, we've known each other, but I mean, we became kind of closer, and with Judy and Dick and everything
Hmm.
like that. We took an Anagapi trip to Russia,
Yes.
and that was pretty impressive when we went. I mean, just what we did, the idea of going to Sweden, We started out in Stockholm, and I'm trying to remember um, her name. Anyway, the lady there that was with the parliament,
Mm-hmm.
she took us to the parliament building so we could pray throughout the parliament, so we could pray for Sweden while we were there. I mean, that's one thing I liked about Bobby and the trips that we would take is very intent on praying for
Mm-hmm.
the people you're
Mm-hmm.
visiting, praying for the countries, not just going for sightseeing. You
Mm-hmm.
really went there
Mm-hmm.
to pray.
Yes.
And she spent a lot of time,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, in
Mm-hmm.
prayer. And I know we went to the Philadelphia church, which I think is, well, almost the one of the start of the Pentecostal movement over there, really.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably still
Mm-hmm.
the largest and oldest of the Pentecostal churches.
Right.
And you remember when we were in Finland too?
Mm-hmm.
Went to Finland. We met with one of the people there, and they took us to the Finnish Parliament, and we got to pray throughout the entire Parliament. And that was well, tell me, what praying like in international locations like that? That's kind of interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
I can remember going into when they in Germany,
Yes.
and it was still, the wall hadn't come down.
Well, I hadn't come down
Yes,
yet.
and we went in, and had the dogs sniff the bus that we were in.
Yes.
But I can remember that we would go afterwards. We went into the other side of Germany, and we went to a church. It was large, large,
Yeah.
large church. Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, Dick. He went down with the people, and we sat there. Oh my goodness! And everybody else was back up there. But
But that's good.
yeah, that was.
That's good.
Hmm.
But no, I mean, particularly in Dick. I went to St. Petersburg. Unfortunately, he had his wallet stolen
Of
in
course.
St. Petersburg. But again, the idea, we got to pray at the Hermitage Museum. We got to pray at the Summer Palace. We prayed at St. Isaac's Cathedral.
Oh, most
I mean,
beautiful.
we really just got
Hmm.
and a good time with that. And then I know we went to Moscow, took an absolutely wonderful overnight train to Moscow. Oh, very comfortable, great. Took a sleeper and great bedroom and everything. And we went to Kiev,
Hmm.
and oh no, excuse me, Moscow first. And I remember when we were in Moscow, obviously we did a lot of activity, but we went to a church in Moscow that at the time, what this would have been like around 2005, and when did the wall come down? Maybe about 10, 15 years earlier or something when Reagan, Um, we went there and we thought, oh, impressive, really beautiful cathedral, Bearded Chapel. They were a mega church. It had about 100 people, but that was for
Right.
Christians. That was a
Right.
mega church
Yeah.
in Russia, and I remember in particularly um, our guides, our regular guide and our Russian guide, while we were in Moscow, them getting to work with us, they really got a new appreciation of the Lord.
That's right.
And I really, it was nice that we could have an impact on so many of the local people.
Hmm.
And then I know we took another overnight train to Kiev. A little bit of an experience, though. Probably a Ukrainian train, not the Russian train. And I think around 2 in the morning, we got bam, 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 and these guards come in, they demand to see our passports and this. And I guess this was like right before we were going to cross into Ukraine. Because I think around 4 o'clock in the morning, they just opened the door to our room. Let me see this.
Yeah.
All I know, I think, but all of us are so awake after that, we just stayed up until we got to Kiev. Until we got to Kiev and said, that's fine, that's fine. I remember what was interesting in Kiev, we had attended a church. Hold on, let me look at my notes so I remember the name of it. No, I can't. Embassy of God Church. And it was outside. Remember, it's kind of in a big tent. But one thing that and I guess maybe that we kind of helped in a way. They not only taught God, but these were people that lived under the USSR. And so they had a whole different lifestyle now facing them, and they did a lot of intense training on uh, finances, biblical look at finances,
Mhm.
biblical look at how you handle things that were so different than the Soviets. And I know that it was interesting spending time with those people because I remember we would get some people, go, oh, like that, and, obviously loved their jeans, loved our
Yeah.
tennis shoes and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was another element of what Bobby did with these mission trips, and that it not only allowed the people in those countries to see us, but it gave us the opportunity to bring God to them.
Mhm.
Any particular memories of those trips that stick out in your mind?
Well, Bobby always said her trips, at the beginning anyway, it was to teach us how to abase and abound.
Uh-huh.
And so we would go to mission stations, and then we would go like to the Ritz in Paris.
Yeah.
But she always paid the mission stations the same amount as the
Ah,
other place. Yeah.
yes. Okay.
So those, yeah,
Yeah.
uh-huh, it was good. Um, oh, I was going to say, we went on a trip. We went to Pompeii,
Oh, okay.
and it was fascinating. And Bobby, we had a guide, but Bobby would, kind of guide us too. And she would say, "Oh, the people here were so sinful," and she would go on and on. And our guide, he didn't like that. And she would say something, and he would, and yeah, no, he was not happy with her. So we got to the bus, and I mean, she would, you know, tell
Oh, yeah.
us how wonderful God was and what all He had done. So we got to the bus, and he says, "Lady, I want to talk to you." And she said, "Oh, no, not now." She didn't want to hear it. No, no. And he says, "No, lady, I want to talk to you." And he says, "Lady, you are wonderful." I mean,
Oh, yeah.
he had totally changed.
Yes.
He was
No,
convicted, and yeah.
Bobby had that effect on all of our
Mhm.
guides.
Mhm.
I mean, almost. I mean, she really opened up the Lord
She did.
in their hearts. I
Mhm.
mean, I was really
Mhm.
amazed.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I was really
Right.
amazed by that.
Mhm.
She did a wonderful. And Bobby, unfortunately, is kind of homebound now, which
Yeah.
is really a shame because, uh, yeah, she was just so invigorating when, I mean, she would get on that plane and, go here, go to Washington, go to Israel, whatever, whenever the
Mhm.
Lord was
Mhm.
calling her, there
Yeah.
she was and
Right.
stuff like that.
Yep. And she
Yeah.
was one that could sleep on the plane.
Oh, yes, you're right. I remember. I remember. Yeah, she could sleep on the
Yeah.
road. Yeah.
So
But one
yeah.
thing that was interesting too, I mean, obviously, after all the time with American Christian Trust and stuff, um, your three sons went to Palos Verdes High,
They did.
and obviously your Dick coached basketball at Carson High,
Mhm.
and your sons obviously kept this family tradition, and they all played basketball, and all three actually played professional ball, and
Mhm.
they were recruited when they got out of high school, and I think Jeff was even recruited by Duke, but he picked Oral Roberts University
Mhm.
and a Christian school, which was interesting. And then when Mark's turn came, he also went to Oral Roberts. And with them being at Oral Roberts, situation arose that Dick was, I guess, one of the coaches. Hey, the kids are saying, and they wanted Dick to come, or as the Oral
Uh,
Roberts. What
oh,
happened on that?
oh, the coaches. Yeah, they wanted. Well, Dick won. What was it? All the city. The first time we went to Oakland, and they won that.
Okay.
I mean, so he was, the top. So they
Yeah.
thought, well, yeah, let's get him.
Okay.
Come back here, and his kids. Well, Jeff was there already,
Yes.
and his cousin had talked to the coach and said, "Coach, I have a really neat cousin, you better check on him. And so that's, yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
and then when they wanted, well, Mark went to ORU.
Yes.
I don't know that he really wanted to do that because he had a lot of the schools, top schools,
Yes, sure.
trying to recruit him. But he loved his brother and he wanted to play with him. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Good.
so that was, yeah, it was great. Dick was an assistant coach for 3 months and then became the head coach.
Head
At
coach.
Christmas time, he looked up at me after the game and he went like this for me to pray.
Oh.
And what was happening was they fired the coach, and
Oh,
Dick
okay.
really didn't think that was a good idea.
Yeah,
Right
okay.
before Christmas, he was not
Yeah.
for it.
Not.
But
I
anyway,
agree. I
yeah,
agree.
and they named him interim coach, and so we were there for 3 years while our kids were playing. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Matt was ball boy and got to go on as many trips
Sure.
as we could, and yeah, it was great. Dick was a really he was a wonderful coach.
Yes. I'm
No,
sure he
he
was.
was. He
I'm
was a
sure he
really
was.
great coach. But he was greater after the games.
That's what I was going to ask you about. Go ahead.
Because he would have a broadcast, and he always lifted up the Lord and praised him and told how wonderful he was. And when he would go to other places, like when we were leaving, actually, I remember this woman coming up to him and saying, "Oh, I've loved you so much. You have been wonderful." Well, yes, he was wonderful, but it was the Lord,
Yeah.
and he always gave him the glory. So that was
Good.
a good thing.
Well, good. I'm glad your visit with Ellen produced a lot of stuff
Yeah,
over the years. I mean,
that's
I've
true.
led to Dick's conversion, and look at all the people
Hmm.
looking, just watching basketball games and listening, say, hey, look the Lord and stuff like that. Well, Dick, unfortunately, went to be with the Lord in 2012. And I know that you said that's okay because you and the kids are going to see him again.
That's right.
And where does that leave you with your with where does that leave you with your walk with God? I mean, Dick was a lot of fun.
He was had a great personality.
Yeah. Uh, but obviously, as they say, the God giveth and God taketh away.
Hmm.
But still, you've retained a good relationship with the Lord.
Well,
And yeah,
yes, he's my all in all. I
good,
couldn't, I couldn't survive without him. He's
good,
wonderful. Yeah,
good.
and you trust in the Lord. Lean
That's
not
right.
unto your
Well,
own understanding.
you
Yeah.
look at everything that's happened,
Hmm.
with you and Bobby, and just all you've been able to gain out of American Trust and all the wonderful stuff that's done. Very impressive. Okay. Well, thank you. Well, I'd like thank Sandy for being here tonight, and thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it, and we hope to see you next Wednesday, and hope to see you here at Harbor Church. We are meeting now. We have a 10:15 service, and we still wear a mask, and we practice definitely the 6 feet, but we still have room for a couple more people, so you're welcome to join us. So I want you to have a very pleasant, God bless you evening. Good night.